The YouTubes, there are several that I've listened to repeatedly in the last 2 years about the loss of loved ones. It's given me
not lost.
Not lost, absolutely, not lost.
Changed.
Transition.
Changed.
Absolutely.
Different.
Yes. And
they're happier, they're smarter, they're more aware of their love for you, they like themselves better, they have no regrets.
And I know all that.
They don't remember where the money's buried.
It's given me a lot of comfort, and when I start going down that slope to a lower vibration, I repeat Abraham's words. There's no such thing as death. There's no such thing. There's not death. There's only life, only life.
The thing about this subject, we're going to interrupt just briefly here. The thing about this subject that happens to most people when you start thinking about your dearly departed, even if you know they're dearly not so departed, it activates within you an attitude of looking at the past, because those places were then, not now. Those conversations were then, not now. And anything that is a subject that calls you on a consistent basis to looking to the past rather than forward to what's coming is sluggish at best. That's why we finally got Esther's attention when we said, look for Jerry where he is, not where he was. Because he's a present tense consciousness interested in what she's thinking about. And they're having leading edge thoughts. They're not regurgitating the past. And so that's big. That's really big.
And I have a believing and a knowing of that now.
Yes.
Absolutely. So my question is, I know that Esther has developed a relationship with Jerry in this transition stage, a whole different relationship. And I'm eager for more information on that and building that. And is there a book coming that will give us more information?
Maybe, because we do talk a lot about it. And it's been a big part of the Abraham Now conversations. And so some of it will be in it. But we want to give it to you in an easier, it doesn't require a whole book. Let's see if we can find a very succinct way of giving you what you're looking for here. The word eternal is hard to get your thoughts around. Even living happily ever after is hard to get your thoughts around. Even the idea of having a non-physical inner being with whom you are intertwining is not the easiest thing to get your thoughts around, because what's here in this physical environment is really vivid. So if you could find a way of consciously acknowledging non-physical's participation in what's going on here and now, you could bridge that gap really easily. You see what we're getting at?
Yes.
It's like it solves all of it, because it gives you that feeling of companionship with those that you care about. And you get to have leading edge experiences with those that you care about. And it's all they really want to do. I'm going to make a series of statements here because we really want to get all of your attention with this. We want you to understand that non-physical is not non-interested in physical. Non-physical is just aware of physical from a non-physical perspective. It's like you watch television and you're not all those places that you are watching, but you are aware of them. And so non-physical is aware. Now, the thing about non-physical that is really a supersonic advantage to you and over what the normal human experience is about is that the non-physical Jerrys and so forth, and Einsteins, and Martin Luther Kings, they are aware in the timelessness that they are of all that has led to what's happening right now. So there's like a full awareness. You don't have to go back and watch a documentary to get up to speed when you're interacting. They understand. It's like the scientists who have been physically focused, who are now non-physically focused, stayed up to speed with every evolution of anything that they were interested in. So it's like they don't need a refresher course because their interest has been part of the evolution. It's not an easy thing to describe to you because as humans, you don't know that you have the ability to do that, but you do. So how does that play out for you? Esther says every day, usually many times in the day. That could not have just happened in the way that it just did if there weren't a whole lot of non-physicals involved and knowing the details of everything that was involved. She can feel the integration of the inner beings with the people that she's interacting with. In other words, they are having, she will say, they're having a wonderful time playing with us in these important and emphatic ways. She knows that we in our physical bodies are not like puppets on a string. What we in our physical bodies are, she says over and over again, are receptors that are receiving in different degrees of receptivity. And when you all get to know what you all know, where you first accept that there is a non-physical partnership, and you accept that that non-physical partnership is over there in your vortices, knowing all the nuances of everything that you've asked for and knowing what the path, your path of least resistance is to get to those satisfying unfoldings. You got to understand, it's not a satisfying unfolding where once and for all you're going to finally get what you want, like a one-time thing. It's not like that. It's like all day, every day, satisfying things that are important to you in ways that surprise and delight you. That's what it's like, you see. And so what we're asking you to consider is participating with non-physical in your now in order to show yourself that if you were not participating with non-physical, first of all, it couldn't be happening, which helps you to understand that the non-physical really is participating with you. And then together you have this playful partnership with non-physical. Any question that you ask can be answered. And when you get to the place of interest and readiness to hear, then you do. Now, did that make sense to you? Did you get what we're getting at? We don't want you to think about non-physical as having been in physical bodies and now being not in physical bodies, although that's one way of thinking of it, and it's accurate. We want you to think of non-physical consciousness present and blending and merging with your physical consciousness and active in your powerful now.
Okay, I heard that.
That's what evolution is. That's why people in religions have such a hard time explaining who the non-physical is or what God is. And they keep putting physical characteristics that do not apply on that which is non-physical, and then they get confused. And that confusion is what makes them think that death is an icky thing instead of a delicious thing. See if we can say it better. So in your physical family, let's say that you were a little kid and you had a relationship with your parents and it was fine. They were old and boring and don't really like to play like you do, but then you got a little brother, and then it started to get more fun. And then you got another little brother or a sister, and then it got to be more fun, and then you went to school. And so you started integrating with more and more of those that have interest with you. And the bigger you let your life get, then the more potential for ideas and fun there were. So you began to discover that when you ran around with your merry band, that you had more fun. And so the example isn't even close to what it is like when you understand that non-physical has full awareness of who you are and knows everything that will surprise and delight you and knows where all of the probabilities and possibilities and facets of that fun are. You have not yet begun to play with non-physical in the way that you have the potential of doing. And part of it is because you don't want to be weird. And part of it is because most people don't understand it. But we promise you, once you relax into the eternal now, when the Abraham Now first broadcast came about, and we were talking to people in Australia who had gotten up in the middle of the night, and people in China, and people in different parts of the United States, and literally nearly every country in the world was represented in that first broadcast. And we were talking about the time, and we were talking about the focus, and we welcomed them all, and we appreciated so much their willingness to want to participate in the live event, because the more minds focused, the bigger the playground is, and the more potential for satisfying the more questions. It's an awesome experience. Then we explain to them our participation. Where do we come from? What time zone are we in? And then we explain that the reason that we call it Abraham now, this is what we're getting at with you, is that you have this now experience with non-physical. That rendezvous is always there. You just have to first accept that it exists, and next recognize it as something that you want, and have trended in the direction of it, and more of those meaningful insights come. Where do you think clever lyrics come from? And where do you think new formulas come from? And new ideas of evolution and expansion? In other words, yes, physical beings are bright. You're bright and shiny, and you are wonderful and very wise, and you're doing all kinds of wonderful things, and you wouldn't be doing any of them if some of you were not integrated with non-physical understanding of things. And so why would anyone want to be in a physical body and not be in on that? Why would you want to pinch yourself off from the resources of clarity, and the resources of stamina, and the resources of new ideas, and the resources of something that feels so good, the ultimate resource of satisfaction? And do you know why most humans do it? Because they've been taught, and they believed, and they keep trending that they are here separate from that, condemned and judged by that, to prove themselves worthy of that. So they're grinding it out and sacrificing as much as they can and working really hard, blood, sweat, and tears. And they can't even get to where they want to be because they are denying the reality of how they fit in to all of this and how all of this fits into them. That's about as close as we've ever come to helping you to understand that, you see. Wonderful. So it doesn't make you weird to, well, it does really. It doesn't make you weird to know something that your own physical experience hasn't given you the ability to know. Esther remembers when Ada, Jerry's accountant of 30 years before Esther even came into the picture. So she'd been his accountant for a long time. And she was their accountant for many years once Esther and Jerry were doing their accounting together. And she made her transition. And Esther remembers preparing her bookkeeping to give to the new person who was going to put it into the forms and present it to the government. And Esther remembers for a moment feeling such loss because Ada was so clear and she guided Esther so easily, and they were so much on the same wavelength. And when Esther asked her a question, she had an easy way of explaining it. And Ada gave Esther confidence that she was doing it just right. And Ada had worked for the government. She'd worked for the IRS, so she knew what all of the rules were, and she wasn't about to break any of them. And Esther felt confident that she was doing it right because of what Ada taught her. And now Ada is dead. And Esther is sitting for the first time preparing her taxes, and then Ada was suddenly not so dead. Esther's wondering about this and then knowing. And then she's wondering about that and then knowing. And she realized Ada was right there doing the preparation for the taxes with Esther. Doing the preparation for the tax. Esther teased her. How come you didn't help me prepare before? Esther's expectation was different in those days, wasn't it? You getting the gist of this?
Yes.